Let's have a wee drive about the West End. So we're currently in the Partick area of Glasgow, moving up into Hindland. It's a magical place, isn't it? They really have kept the architecture together out here, so they have. But today's rant, is it a rant? I got a rouse from my German friend Helena for ranting the other day. However, even on my small platform, I think if you can express an opinion, it's not a bad thing. So this place is just stunning, isn't it? Today we're going to talk about Hannah Spencer. I hope I've got her name right. She was a Green Party member of, she's now a Green Party member of Parliament for a place in Manchester. Where am I with the Green Party? Well, I'm a father, as we would say in Scotland. I'm a father. You want to live your life, leave more for your kids than you had, and leave the planet in a kind of better condition, don't you? Nobody wants to breathe filthy air, no one wants to drink dirty water and all that type of stuff. However, my issue with the Green Party are their energy policies. If you think about it, the city I'm in just now lost about half its population in the past 100 years. We can't even service the infrastructure the Victorians left us. So that was a bit of a segue, wasn't it? The UK is currently really whacked due to high energy costs, courtesy of our friends in the United States of America. They got the United Kingdom, they willingly got Keir Starmer, who's an absolute bellend, isn't he? I mean, another thing about living in Glasgow is I've met some badass mother effers in my life. And Keir Starmer does not strike me as being one of the guys. He really doesn't. So, where was I going with this? The UK, thanks to the Americans starting the war in the Ukraine, and I'm going to stick to that. And Europe is absolutely whacked due to high energy costs. What else? Then they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, the single greatest act of environmental terrorism that's ever happened. Released hundreds of millions of cubic tons of methane into the atmosphere, didn't it? So the idea that the Americans care about anything to do with greenery is just ridiculous. The fact that the British government didn't say anything about it, they're complicit, aren't they? The Germans, who was it at the time? Olaf Scholz. He should have been taken out and publicly executed for allowing that to happen. But anyway, the Green Party, to reboot the UK, it would take an entire generation. To me, that would be us siring the children, educating the children, and having an infrastructure that the children could go on to have a successful country, and it is 100% tied to having cheap energy costs. I'm all for the wind turbines, I'm all for... Scotland's a very green country, apart from we export shit tons of oil, but Scotland doesn't see the benefit of 1 penny of any of the oil. There's areas of Glasgow I drive through and I see poverty, and you think this is the largest city and the most oil-rich country in Europe. What the hell's going on, you know? So we'd have to bring up the kids, we'd have to tap into cheap energy. I'm not a fan of nuclear power in any way, due to the war in Ukraine. We've seen that when people are pushed, they'll attack nuclear power stations, so I think that just instantly rules them out. the push towards net zero has been financially crippling for the people in Europe and the UK. I don't think it's working, so I'm against sort of the Green Party's green policies. Saying that, watching Keir Starmer's party getting their balls towed, T-O-W-E-D, it's a Scottish expression for booted, is just fabulous. And you know, little what was he, a banker or a stocks and share guy, ferret-faced Nigel Farage, is spewing racism onto our streets. We're blaming immigrants for catastrophic mistakes that our government have made for the past 40 or 50 years, and we're scapegoating these people. Through my life I've seen the finger being pointed at everyone in generations beforehand. It was black people that were stealing all our jobs, it was Jews that were stealing all our jobs, it was the Catholics. There's always somebody that they point a finger to we get a bit socialist or communist, just to split up the proletariat, the workers. If the workers all think it's Johnny Forner that's leaving them bankrupt, they'll get angry at Johnny Forner, but it's not, it's the government, isn't it? The government pushed up the energy prices, the government took us to war, the government said nothing when the Yanks blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Let's pull over here because that just looks lovely. Maybe even get out and have a look at the River Kelvin too. So, I mean, all these ills came from the government and our fealty, our loyalty to the Yanks. Now look at the state that America's in. Why would anybody want anything to do with it? When they put tariffs on Europe, Europe should have turned out. The European leaders should have got together and said to them, you know what? So your military bases, just pack them up and get them out of here, you know. But they didn't, because the European leaders make so much money from wars that they couldn't possibly throw out the Yank banksters. So seeing Nigel Farage, the reason we have economic woes in the UK is not down to immigration. At one point in my life, my grandfather was an immigrant. They came from, or my great-grandfather, they came from Italy, didn't they, you know? I'm as Scottish as a potato scone now, you know. I've got nothing to identify myself with. Let's go and have a look at the River Kelvin. I've got nothing to identify myself with that way, apart from having a pretty mental second name. Yeah, look at the money in the Victorian side, it's just staggering, isn't it? And as I said earlier on, we can't even afford to maintain the jewels and marvels that they gave us. So, well done, Hannah Spencer. She's a plumber, I believe. I think for Scotland to get out its woes, we used to have the SNP, we don't have them anymore, they're corrupted, they're just a British Unionist party. The only way we could do it is if we found our own Hannah Spencers, our own plumbers. I've got lots of mates that are business people, you know. A lot of them are really quite successful. I think what we should do is get together, look for luminaries in our own communities, be it doctors, nurses, plumbers, business people, plasterers, whatever, and stand them as independent candidates to send them into the Scottish Parliament and to Westminster. But we don't have any time, do we? We don't have any time to do that. And the people, there's no cohesion in Scotland either. Half the country waves Union Jacks about. Another, well, I'll say this about Glasgow, it's not Scotland specific. But half this city waves Union Jacks about, another half waves Irish tricolours. I don't have a problem with the English, Irish, Welsh or Scots, but I have a real problem with the British Empire. Still there, isn't it? We're complicit in slaughter of people in the Middle East. It looks as if today's the day with Iran as well, doesn't it? Well, the American aircraft carriers are in place, are going to go in there, and I'm hoping if Hannah Spencer shaking the main British political parties was a good sign. I'm hoping that the Iranians give the Americans the biggest ass whipping they've ever had in their history, and I think they possibly could. But my passion for my passion for, would we call it, justice, means that there's lots and lots of people are going to end up dying, doesn't it? So let's hope for a peaceful outcome in that one, but I can't see it. I think today's today. Today's the day when the markets close in America, the Yanks are going to get in, they're going to cause real chaos. And I think the Iranians are going to fight back. So, right, as ever, just this is rambling nonsense, isn't it? Hannah Spencer, congratulations. For the UK to be successful, we'd have to breed the kids, we'd have to educate them in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, we'd have to build factories for them to work in, we'd have to have our children better educated than Chinese children. When you think about it, China's population is about 1.4 billion. And every city in the UK that's got a university is full of Chinese students getting university educations in the UK. Then in England, the English kids are having to pay for it, getting themselves into monster debt. So we'd have to breed the kids, get them into nuts and bolts educations, get them to be the best in the world. Then we need to supply cheap energy to the businesses. We need some kind of manufacturing base again. We'd have to open up the steel mills. For that, I would say you'd need lots of coal. The Green Party aren't going to open up coal mines, are they? But that's kind of what the UK would need, and it would take us about 30 years to get back in our feet. There's still lots of dirty money moves through the UK via banking and military contracts and stuff like that, but as a resource-based economy, we're absolutely nowhere, I think. Scotland's a net exporter. I think the UK in general is a net importer. So, Hannah Spencer, congratulations. Watching Keir Starmer, who's a war criminal, he should be in the jail, having a meltdown, and for people in England to have another choice for somebody to vote for. Imagine the Greens will do very, very well. What happens when they get into Westminster? I think they go down there with the best intentions in the world. They're asked to go and see somebody or other. They walk in, there's a big plastic sheet in a room on the floor. There's a table in front of them with an icon of Satan and the photos of their wife and kids around about it. They walk in, two guys walk up behind them, force them down to kneel on the plastic sheet and put guns to the back of their head, then show them their computer history. I think that's how they control UK politicians. Or if they're the posh Etonian set, they look for people who are very, 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 very bright, that have got a heavy sexual kink when they're at university or college, and they get promoted into positions of power in Westminster, don't they? Place is absolutely crawling with paedophilia and, oh God, all sorts of stuff that normal people would be taken out in the street and beaten to a pulp for. But anyway, so well done the Greens. I'm not a fan of the Green parties, as I said, because of the whole energy thing. Scotland could vote Green, but Patrick Harvey can't even. Patrick Harvey, I seen him getting interviewed a few years ago. He's the head of the Scottish Green Party, and somebody asked him 3 or 4 times in an interview if a woman could have a penis, and 3 or 4 times he said yes to the question. I mean, it's biological impossible, isn't it? That makes the guy an absolute idiot. Little Ross Greer has said some good stuff recently, but again, if their idea of coming into power is to close down, cut off gas supplies and things like that, the country's already doomed. We would have to open up coal mines. This cheap energy sitting where you need it next to what were the large industrial bases in the UK. One of the reasons the reasons Glasgow did so well, where Scotland's incredibly wealthy when it comes to natural resources. We've got iron ore, we've got coal, we've got sandstone, we've got the whole lot. Then we had an amazing infrastructure due to the railway network and a very, very, very educated workforce. Didn't matter whether they were riveters, cartwrights, or guys that were naval architects. Glasgow had some of the brightest minds in the world for an awful long time. Let's hope one day we can get back to that. So, 15 minutes of me talking crap. Hannah Spencer, go and get them. But there's the other thing as well. If a party does well in the UK, you have to think that they've been okayed by the people that actually run the UK, and that's not the politicians. Alrighty, tighty. So from an absolutely beautiful, well, still cloudy, from an absolutely stunning Scotland and wonderful architecture that is the West End of Glasgow. Thank you all for watching, and if I was English, I would probably vote Green, but you could be voting to do yourself out of job, couldn't you? But voting for Labour, ferret face Farage, or the Tories or Lib Dems, you're voting to lose your job anyway, because they're going to keep on hiking energy bills because they need to pay for their wars and their genocides, don't they? That's where the dough really is. Not for me and you. Not for me and you. No, that's for them though. That's where the money is. Big capital finance in the banks, shooting off cruise missiles and all the rest of it. They'll be rubbing their hands together with glee, won't they? The prospect of attacking Iran. I wonder how Lockheed Martin stocks are doing. By the by.